So, I'm proud to share that first, and let's get this out of the way, that Lightedge was recently recognized by Broadcom, by VMware, as one of only 100 global VMware partners under the new model. It's exciting for us. We're going to tell you that 20 times for the next 45 minutes. But we're also going to talk about what that means and how you make sure that you're operating within a trusted partnership. Um, that distinction puts us among a select group of folks to deliver these VMware solutions. And so that sets the stage for the conversation. But with that said, I want to bring in the panel here. We've got some really, really great gentlemen here that are joining me. They're also from Lightedge. And so, gentlemen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let's do Mike, Robert, then Brad, please.
Hey everybody, Mike McHenry, Principal Technologist, Field CTO at Lightedge. Been with the company over 20 years. Thank you everyone for taking the time today.
Hey everybody, Robert Hernandez, Solutions Architect here at Lightedge. Coming up on 2 years, so I'm right behind Mike. Happy to be here. Happy to be talking to you guys today.
Everybody, I'm Brad Hedlund. I'm also a solutions architect here at Lightedge, working on Robert's team. Like him, I've been here about 2 years. Background at VMware, Cisco, Amazon, and now happy to be here at Lightedge with you today.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. So together with this panel, we're going to unlock what's changing, what it means for you, and ultimately how you plan your next steps with confidence. And so let's get into some questions. We'll do some early questions first. Mike, the first one I'm going to do is ask you is, what specifically is driving VMware's evolution under Broadcom? What is the intent? Like, why are they doing this? Why now? What is the point of it?
Yeah, I think that's a great opening question, Travis. I get really excited about this question. I think I've got some unique perspective in my role. I spent a lot of time with VMware leadership many years prior to Broadcom and leading up to that change, right? And what I would share with the group is VMware was trying to execute on the same strategy that Broadcom is coming in and executing against, right? So while it feels disruptive, and I think the pace of change took everybody off guard. I think what we have to recognize is these are changes that VMware was trying to do, not as successfully as Broadcom was, to be transparent with everybody. I think what both VMware and Broadcom see in the VMware technology stack is one, you have an evolving landscape in these technologies or these service platforms where simple doesn't cut it anymore. You need additional layers, if you will, to these platforms to kind of run modern day cloud. So what Broadcom saw in VMware was an opportunity to kind of move things forward, if you will, right? There's a space between the smaller, simple private cloud environments and the hyperscalers that Broadcom wants to step into. So there's still a lot of money and investment that they plan in making in VMware. It's not a buy it and carve it up and kill it off like a lot of people are concerned about. They're still, as a company, putting $10 billion a year into research and development. So I think we're very excited to be part of that. We see a future in it, and we're happy to help.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Hey, Brad, question for you. Um, you know, is VMware or why is VMware, still a strong foundation for what we would consider hybrid or multi-cloud strategies? Hey, Brad, you're muted.
Down the mute button. Sorry about that. Yeah, VMware is still the platform where you can really run anything and you can run it anywhere and you can run it with confidence and with a consistent operational model that really helps you to stay secure and really helps you to set yourself in a position to adopt hybrid and multi-cloud strategies. And one of the examples of that is kind of all of the additional networking innovation that and storage innovation that VMware has put into the platform, namely like NSX and even some of the very new things that are coming in VCF 9 with some of the more built-in embedded networking capabilities into the platform. So you can build a zero trust networking architecture that really prepares you for what it's going to be like when you begin to run workloads elsewhere. And you can even run VMware, of course, on-prem in your data center, in a Lightedge managed data center, and even in the public cloud, you can run VMware on EC2 instances in Amazon. You can run them on virtual machines in Azure. So you really have a platform that you can build your future with in terms of hybrid multi-cloud because of all these embedded capabilities and all of the innovations gone into it. I think the kind of the narrative early on that Broadcom just wanted to kind of milk customers and not innovate the platform, it's really not true. We're not seeing that at all. Based on all of the new innovations that are coming into VCF 9, I think it's going to be a solid foundation for customers to build their future on. And Lightedge is here to help in helping customers manage that, working with them to build those architectures that really meet their business needs.
All right. Thanks for that, Brad. And Robert, question for you. It was a big deal for us to be recognized as one of these 100 or so partners. What does that mean for our customers?
Sure. No, that's a good question, right? Because I mean, what, like, you get into the space of what does this particular title mean or distinction mean, right? At least in this particular case, it means for me anyway, that we are not only able to help folks with their VMware infrastructure, again, be it on-prem, data center, and cloud, but we have been specifically designated by Broadcom and VMware to be one of the best providers for VMware products and services, right? And so, I mean, first of all, just for a moment, you have this diagram here pulled up. Just taking even just a quick look at this, there's a lot that encompasses VMware Cloud
A very
Foundation.
basic diagram, Robert.
Very
Super
basic.
simple.
We
Yeah.
wanted to keep it chill, right? Something easily digestible, but even so, it's still an awful lot, right? And so when you look at that, you go, wow, I know I have VMware, or I know I need VMware. Where do I even start, right? It's so much. And so being recognized as one of these partners, it says, hey, we can help. We look at this and it actually makes sense to us. You know what I mean? So there is that ability for us to step in and, to be perfectly fair, try to help assess the situation, right? We're going to touch on this, I'm sure, a bit later, but one of the things that I like to think of with this particular distinction is it means now, hey, if you need something related to VMware, you can call a Lightedge. Maybe it's infrastructure that you need, maybe it's consolidation efforts, migration, maybe you're just trying to bridge a gap between now and what the next step is. Whatever that looks like, you now know that Lightedge can assist, especially for those. I mean, we're a legacy data center provider too. We have plenty of folks running VMware and colo space, right? Again, things have had to change. They now know that we are not going to suddenly go, good luck. No, we're right here to help with you. We have been designated to do so, and we have a lot of expertise in the space. And again, that's really what that distinction and that designation means to me.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate it. And so, let's get to the specifics of what's changing and really why it matters, right? So we know that Broadcom's acquisition brought that major overhaul. But the new approach is intentional. Right? They know what they're doing. They're doing it for very specific reasons. They want to make sure that going from thousands to just, 100 or so, they're going to be able to deliver and ensure that their partners deliver this high consistency, this secure quality service. And so, but this change does affect how VMware services are purchased. It affects how they're managed. It even affects how they're supported, right? And so for customers that are running VMware today, what specifically does change and why does it matter? So, Mike, the first question I'll go to you on this section is, what are the key changes in the VMware partner model? Get as detailed as you want, right? We want to make sure that customers understand how they affect customers specifically and what they need to know.
Yeah, I think that, at a high level, there's two dates to keep in mind. One is October 31st, which is tomorrow, is kind of the end of new transactions, if you will, for service providers with VMware. What that means is not that things stop working for anybody. Again, Broadcom wants to be strategic about this. They want customers to stay. They're not trying to push customers away. But what they're envisioning is a 2-year map or a 2-year roadmap, if you will, where customers have time to work with some of those 100 service providers that have been selected to continue business with VMware to make changes, right? And in the backdrop of those two dates, you also have typical renewals coming up, just retail retail licensing renewals customers that are very interested in talking to service providers or partners due to the changes that they're seeing on that front and the complexity that they're challenged with on the platform front, right? So I would say, think about think about this as being a multi-year rollout. Things are not going to stop working tomorrow. What happens tomorrow is service providers, new service providers, if you will, are not able to transact with Broadcom. The reason they're doing that is they want to focus on that select group of 100 partners and really put their energy on getting to what you see on the screen here. Yeah, this is a large investment. We're ready for it. This is seventh generation VMware for us. But the Broadcom as a company wants to focus on that smaller group of providers, and that's what's starting tomorrow.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Thanks for that, Mike. And by the way, for everyone that's participating in this live, we're live as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the QA, and if we're able to, we'll jump in and we'll answer those live as well. Robert, I think the question for you is everyone here that's listening to this isn't necessarily a customer of ours today for VMware. We'd love for them to be, right? But they may not be. And so if they're not, how can they understand or ensure, if their current provider is authorized under that next or that new VMware program?
Sure. There's, in my opinion, kind of I guess a pragmatic answer, right? I mean, we're having a whole webinar saying that we are one of the top 100.
They've probably told you if they are, right?
Yeah, you've probably heard at this point if your provider was one of the ones chosen. Now, let's assume for a moment that you haven't heard that information. Let's just take, again, some kind of practical steps, right? First, honestly, if you're unsure, ask your provider. I mean, again, whether you're working with a reseller, a cloud service provider, whatever that looks like, just feel free to ask. Again, if you're not sure, go ahead and ask. If you have even, again, VMware reps or partners, again, just ask. But even simpler, like Broadcom actually has a website. You can very quickly, they have like a whole partner locator. Now, it depends on, again, this is a global thing, right? So you want to make sure you're picking the specific region that's important to you, particular services. But in general, yeah, it's very easy to just look up, which I'll be honest with you, this is a true statement. I actually used it this morning. I wanted to actually verify, like, how actually easy is it? It's actually fairly straightforward. Again, you plug in specifically what you're looking for. Do you want a reseller, a cloud service provider, whatever, professional services, right? You can put all that in there and it'll spit out a particular provider. Again, hopefully you do land on a Lightedge. More than happy to have those discussions, but Broadcom, I will say, has made it wonderfully transparent how to track down some of these organizations that can help.
Good deal. Thanks, Robert. And so there was a question that just came in. I think it's a great time to actually cover it. And I'm going to ask any three of you guys to answer as you think is appropriate. But, of course, there's the disruption model, there's the change management, there's all that comes in there. But what it all comes down to for most folks is price, right? What changes? How impactful is that? It was an anonymous attendee, but they've asked specifically, they're focused on cost. That's what's driving their concerns and their questions and their next steps. Do any of you guys have any details to share on what should folks expect on price increases?
Travis, let me start with that. And I would say one, if you've been hosting workload with a service provider, I wouldn't be as concerned about price increases. Most of the service providers built their offerings around the portfolio, if you will. Again, back to what Broadcom was trying to do and what VMware was really trying to do before them. VMware had a great base foundation with vSphere, but there was a lot of add-on technology that, over the years was kind of optional. As you get into these modern cloud architectures, these layers are not optional anymore. So imagine, 5, 10 years ago, you had vSphere with 58 different things you could add on top of it. What Broadcom has done is accelerated what VMware was trying to do, which is collapse that down to one choice, which is really a stack. It's a licensing of a stack of technologies that enables you to build enterprise-grade cloud platforms, right? So for the service providers and the people that were already building architectures in that fashion, there's not much change whatsoever. There's a lot of change and disruption to customers that were starting with vSphere and, in their minds being forced into this doubling or tripling of price when in reality what was happening was you're, I don't want to say getting prepared, but kind of getting prepared for these modern architectures, right? You need these additional layers so there can be impact. I think as we look at the total cost of VMware compared to the alternatives, we still see it as being a very compelling option. It's cost competitive when you're looking at it from a total cost of ownership. It's definitely top of mind because a lot of people were running environments on just that foundational tool vSphere, and they're facing cost increases. But frankly, their cost increases they would have been facing anyway had they looked at moving in any other direction, the hyperscalers, alternative platforms, et cetera. So I think we feel pretty good about it. Less disruption for us, but it's definitely a top of mind conversation. We've got some unique abilities to help customers through that transition. But broadly, I would kind of close it with cost of these things continues to go up, right? It's not inexpensive to host enterprise grade workloads, no matter where you put them. And that's something to kind of keep in mind as you're responding to that back to your businesses that are asking what's going on.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Mike. So there is another question here that I'll ask, but I'm also going to caveat it. So it's from Jamie. Jamie asks, let's talk migration, right? How can Lightedge help us move off of VMware? What are clients moving to? Before I ask you guys for your point of view, what I'll say is, I think anytime there's going to be change or disruption or investment or whatever, right? It's always good to understand what your workloads are and what the best platform for each of those workloads could or should be. And so, Jamie, what I expect these guys will say, and what I'll tell you now is that there's no platform that's perfect for all workloads. It's a workload by workload conversation, and it'll depend on a lot of things. But gentlemen, any one of you have a specific point of view that you want to double down on, Robert?
Yeah, I'll just to touch a little bit. I mean, we're at a place right now. If for folks that have maybe had the opportunity to watch some of our other webinars in the past, right? We talk an awful lot about multi-cloud, multi-platform. I mean, to your point, Travis, there's an awful lot of options in terms of what you can and can't work with, what you need to go to. And from my perspective, I look at it as first of all, I totally agree. It is workload specific. Again, there's no one platform for everything. And it's also, from my perspective, what taking a moment to kind of baseline where you are today, understand what your needs are, and understand where you need to be going over the next few years is likely going to be where I think the most of the focus should be. Because theoretically, working with a partner like Lightedge, we can assist in migrating to and from a variety of different platforms, including VMware. But right now, it's a focus around what do you need, trying to project to the best of your ability what you're going to need over the next little bit, and then planning around that. Platforms are just kind of, as a service provider, ultimately the platform is kind of doesn't matter, right? We want to just make sure that it is providing what the client needs for use cases.
Well said. Very well said. And so Chris has another question. And Chris, by the way, thanks for being a Light customer. I appreciate your question there. So Chris has a question. So taking off our VMware hat, I didn't wear a hat, but taking off your VMware hat, the question that Chris is getting all the time is, what are the alternatives? What is feasible? Even what are we seeing that other folks are doing, and are we finding or are they finding that it's even worth the switch? Brad, I see you're unmuted. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I was going to say one thing that maybe a lot of people don't know about Lightedge is that we are premier partners with the top cloud providers, and we have very strong managed and professional services around that. And we have helped customers who have decided that, certain workloads are a better fit for the public cloud. We've helped them to migrate those and provide a good best practice architecture of security in those environments and to provide ongoing management. And I've also seen situations too where some customers are in Lightedge running VMware and they're happy with that, but they've identified ways that they can maybe burst into the public cloud for temporary needs. And so we were able to help them evaluate those options, help them price it out, have it make sense for them. So I just wanted to kind of put it out there that, Lightedge has a lot of capabilities around, not only kind of the on-premises and hybrid, but also in the public cloud as well. And we've helped customers get there.
Yeah, that's well said, Brad. To put a bow on that question, what I'll say is we don't see a wholesale evacuation to any specific private cloud solution. VMware dominates there. I think they'll continue to dominate. But we do see folks as rationalizing those workloads between, what is dynamic, what is public cloud, and likely picking a primary hyperscaler platform and a primary private cloud platform, and that finding that balance in between those two. That's the outside of platforms and technologies or naming hyperscalers, that's just the general motion that we see is a primary on each of the public and private cloud platforms. Good deal. Okay, so let's move on. So let's talk about, let me see, there's a couple of things here, a couple of live questions, but so what we want to do, right, as providers, as an MSP, is ultimately simplify that journey for our customers. It can be complex, as we've talked about, right? There's a lot of questions. We've heard from many, many, many customers that they feel overwhelmed, right? The changes to the program are confusing, the cost model is confusing, the expansion of the required services could be confusing. And it gets even more complicated when you introduce multiple platforms there. And so our focus at Lightedge remains to make things simple, right? VMware's platform is the technical background from the private cloud side, and we bring the operational excellence, the management, the monitoring, the supporting of it. And for customers, ultimately, that means less time spent managing it, worrying about it, learning on the fly, having to do rework. And so, Mike, the question that I'll ask you first is how does Lightedge leverage VMware or VCF specifically, if you'd like, to deliver this consistent, we'll call it hybrid ready operations? Because that's what customers care about, hybrid ready at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, Travis. So I think two ways. One is you look at the complexity and the depth really of the architecture slide that we have up here. One thing I would point out is we've been doing this for a long time. This is, I think, our seventh generation of VMware platform. As early as VCF, if you will, or the portal interface to VMware came out, we were early adopters of that. And I think the big benefit we saw in that was, the promise of single pane of glass to manage these hybrid workloads, right? We talked a lot about right platform for the right workload. I think that one of the increasing challenges for businesses is these days of making a commitment to an architecture for 3 years and living with it are gone. These things change too quickly. You know what you need today. You maybe know where you need to be 6 months from now,
Yeah.
but there's so many changes. We see customers with, core architectures or core platforms that are moving into PaaS type architectures, right? So how do you make a decision or make an investment that you have to live with for 3 years when all the workloads that are running in that investment may need to change over those 3 years, right? So I think that's the second area. If the first area is maybe more of a technology investment, capital investment, kind of building the architecture and the portal and all the surrounding monitoring and management systems that you need to properly manage these cloud environments. The second area that we see a lot of area that we can help our customers is just opening up that flexibility, right? Feel confident in making the investment based on what you need today. Lean into your service providers and your partners for taking on some of that risk of, well, what happens if things change? We're willing and able to take on that risk and just assume it will change, right? So make decisions based on what you're confident in both today and where you need to be, but don't make reactionary decisions based on fear of price or things like that, right? I think there's a lot of, well, I've got to make a change because the price went up. I think what we advise customers is take a minute to kind of think about where you're at today, the cost of change, and then where you need to be. And you still have time to think about these things strategically and choose partners and platforms that can evolve with those needs or support that hybrid cloud uh, type workload.
Yeah, Mike, I love what you said there. And it's not a VMware response, it's a all technology response, but assume it will change, right? That is absolutely the truth. Assume it will change your IT strategy, the demands, the regulations, the constraints around all of that. It will change. So plan for change. I love that. Brad, question for you. So, what differentiates Lightedge as a managed VMware service versus from, say, traditional VMware hosting to self-managed VMware hosting? Like, what differentiates us there?
Yeah, that's a good question, Travis. It's not as simple as just firing up some vSphere servers and calling it a day to run
I mean,
a
you can do that, but I don't know if
yeah.
it'll work out great sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. You could, it wouldn't last very long. I mean, there's to really run a business securely, effectively, and compliance, there's a whole lot of tooling that's involved with that. There's a whole lot of skill set that you need to have. And that's really Lightedge's core strength is our managed service offerings. So we can do everything from managed backups. So we can work with you to do your backups for you, set schedules, make sure that those backups are running, help you do restores, offsite backups, even immutable and indelible backups for cyber security recovery. Then there's disaster recovery services too. So, it's one thing to set up a really nice data center and have everything working great, but then you have to worry about disasters. So, Lightedge has a whole bunch of capabilities around replicating your data to another Lightedge data center using our 100 gig backbone that we have across the United States that connects all of our data centers together, and we can help you with the replication. We can help you manage your run books too. So it's one thing to set up the technology. It's a whole nother thing to actually have a run book and have somebody responsible for it, calling out the steps that need to be done and who needs to do them.
Yeah.
We will do that for you as part of our disaster recovery services and do annual tests for you and help you do restores. If there's any lessons learned in those tests, we'll update those run books and so that you're always confident that you can survive a disaster situation. And the list goes on. So then there's managed firewalls too. Firewalls is always that thing that's just kind of you set it up once and you hope it keeps working, and but it does need to be cared and feed for. And so Lightedge has a full service around managing your firewalls for you. And then there's endpoint detection and response and SOC and SIM. We have a full set of 24 by 7 capabilities around that. Remote hands. A lot of times customers have a environment hosted with us, but they've got a specific physical appliance they need to do a special function, and they need somebody to go in there and connect a cable or push a power button. We can do that for you. And then there's all the OS management and administration too, doing Windows administration, database administration services for like SQL Server. I could keep going on. And then so all of these things, I believe, are the reason why, we were selected by Broadcom to be one of those top 100 partners. And I could even go on about kind of all of our managed offerings around, of course, dedicated private cloud and our multi-tenant private cloud, as well as our breadth and depth and networking capabilities. Lightedge has got a long history in networking, and it still shows today in what we're able to, the custom network architectures that we're able to set up for customers to really help them seamlessly transition from wherever they're at today, coming into Lightedge with a very similar architecture that they're used to. So
Yeah.
long-winded response there. Sorry, Travis, but there's a lot
Okay.
there's a lot we can do, and I think that's really what differentiates us.
I mean, Brad, it was a long-winded response, but it was also a
Sorry.
very good response. So I'll take it, man. What I did hear you say though, Brad, and this is true, right? Is cloud's actually pretty easy to set up. Private cloud's easy to set up. Public cloud's easy to set up. Doing it right, doing it securely, doing it to where it's resilient, learning from all the lessons that we learn with our customers, and we don't have to repeat 18 times for every single customer, right? That is the very, very, very different experience. And I love what Brad said for firewalls. Hope is not a strategy. That's a bad strategy for your firewalls. So you want some expertise at your perimeter at the very, very, very least. And so, Robert, question for you. And by the way, as the leader of operations, I love asking these gentlemen to sell the operational discipline that my team delivers. So this is a really great, unique opportunity. Robert, a question for you now. So for Lightedge's operational practices, those amazing, amazing operational disciplines that we implement, like monitoring, compliance, automation, like how do we differentiate? How is my team really, really amazing, Robert? That's what I want you to tell us all.
I'm here for it. So I want to actually call back just for a moment to Brad, right? So Brad had gone through all the different managed services that we provide, and he got into more details about all the specific areas. That's not easy. So when I say it's not easy, let's kind of talk about the actual breadth of that, right? So I full disclosure, in my past life, I was a systems engineer. I've had to work with a variety of different teams. I was deploying servers and stuff. And one of the most cumbersome things for me to do as a systems engineer was to help a database administrator set up their database server. I had my templates and I had my here's this, and the database administrator's like, I need 64 gigs of RAM. I only have 32. There's so many things wrapped into that. And as a systems engineer, again, I have a particular skill set around virtualization, storage, or whatever. I may not have visibility into what it takes to set up a database server or something like that, right? And so all that to say, calling back to Lightedge operations, I hope Travis is okay. One of my favorite folks to work with here at Lightedge is a gentleman by the name of JR. JR works for our database administration team. Love JR. But it's when we talk about like what differentiates, like the actual like what makes us great, it's that we take the approach of, well, if we were putting it together ourselves, if we're trying to do this for us, how would we go about doing this? And we've been doing that for decades now. So we've made the big mistakes. We've done the trials and tribulations. So now on the other end, clients are like, I have this thing. Hey, great. I'm going to get JR on the phone, and JR is going to tell you things like database table optimizations, things like, let's not throw RAM at it. Maybe it's just slight optimizations here there. So it's, again, another long-winded way of just saying we take a kind of a holistic approach to how we deliver services. Again, it's one thing to say, here's some servers. It's another thing to say, here's some servers, here's the diagrams, here's the networking, here's the IP space. If you have a question, you can call this hotline. By the way, there's so many different things that are very, very easy to overlook that we do day in and day out. And at the end of the day, for us, it's, if we are not doing it right on your behalf, we're not doing it right.
Yeah, very, very well said, Robert. So, let's get more into some customer stories, right? Let's make all this real. Let's talk about how customers, or how we're seeing customers respond for that matter. Many organizations have taken this as an opportunity to revisit, potentially refactor, but really just understand and reinforce what their strategy is. Are they consolidating VMware environments? Are they improving lifecycle management? Or are they extending their workloads to, public cloud potentially? Reality is we have helped a ton of customers through this journey. It's a very, very common journey. But there's a lot to learn, a lot to not be repeated, not a lot of like work you don't need to learn the hard way, to make sure that we can share our experiences and make sure you know what to avoid and get it right the first time. Robert, going back to you, the question I have is, can we share, you solution these all day for customers. Can you share, an example that your most favorite example of a customer who successfully navigated this transition where it's VMware and they maintain and reinforce their business continuity
Mm-hmm.
and they leverage that Lightedge support along the way? How did they do it?
Yeah, no, great one. So this was a client that actually the original discussion happened towards the tail end of last year and then carried on into this year. But they had a couple different things. So they had a mandate first to get out of the data center business. So they had a couple of data centers where they were, and they did not want to manage them anymore, nor the infrastructure. So there's that aspect. Additionally, they went through this large RFP process, and one of the specific criteria was actually aligning with a VMware authorized partner, and more specifically, a cloud service provider. Because again, they wanted to get out of that data center business. Now, on top of that, though, they had a couple different things. So they were a VMware shop. So they had, again, VMware stack top to bottom. They had implemented the vSAN in certain places, blah, blah, blah. But they also had a VDI. Now, for those folks that may not be aware, Horizon used to be owned by VMware when the acquisition was completed. Broadcom had spun off the Horizon product and it's called Omnissa now. But all that to say, the conversation we had with them early on was, okay, we fully recognize you need to go from just getting out of the data center space, moving to a managed service, but the conversation turned to, let's talk about maintaining your level of service, right? What are the services that you expect to be having in your new home? VDI being one of those, VMware being one of those, et cetera. So along the way, we decided, okay, this is what's going to be the appropriate platform specifically for your database workloads. Here's going to be the platform for the non-database workloads. Again, for a lot of folks coming to Lightedge around this VMware change, pricing is a consideration. So we want to make sure that we're also being cost effective amongst all this licensing, all these things, right? So we just took a very nuanced approach to just understand the state of everything, understand what their needs were, and kind of aligning a design that, again, technically I mean, we can all speak to, again, VMware's a phenomenal platform, but also, again, was optimized on their behalf. And more importantly, for them, because they were in the midst of all this different transition, Broadcom changes aside, right? Again, they were doing some major business changes. They needed people to do the migration. They needed us to stand up firewalls. They also have disaster recovery with us. So there's so many different aspects that they very suddenly had to change. We're talking about, this was goodness, maybe a 6 months time frame when we had this conversation. And for those that are on the call, 6 months, you guys know it's not very long, actually. That's a fairly quick amount of time. So all that to say, it was a conversation that started as something as simple as, we just need to get out of the data center space. And then it changed to, well, we've had some changes with Broadcom, and now it's this entirely different, well, we've pivoted to using a managed service provider. So we're not dealing with the hardware anymore for our disaster recovery, for our backups. We're still able to support VDI in certain capacities. So there's a lot that we can do and have been able to do successfully for this client. And again, this is just one client, right? There's many others that have had very similar or potentially even more complex stories that we've been able to assist with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so we know that in the market, not as Lightedge customers, but just generally in the market, we have seen folks being caught off guard by this change. Um, Brad, specifically for you, question, talk a little bit about what we've done to prepare, Lightedge customers that are consuming VMware for that journey, making sure they don't experience any disruption.
Yeah, just Travis, I've got one kind of quick customer story. So we have a customer that we're managing their VMware infrastructure for, and a lot of managed services. And one thing that's really unique about Lightedge is our networking capabilities, and that network that extends into cloud carrier facilities, where not only are we in there, but we're already connected to these exchanges with network-to-network interfaces. So what does all that mean? It means that we can provide the connectivity that the customer needs very quickly. So this customer came to us and said, I need to get connected to Google Cloud like right now. I've got an emergency. Now, normally this would be a very long process. You'd have to, pull some cables. You'd have to call some circuit providers. You have to wait a week or two to, get a quote. We were able to turn this around very quickly because our network is already there, and we can create very custom network topologies for the customers and do additional services around that. And they said, oh, by the way, I don't have a network guy to do any BGP. So Lightedge, can you do the BGP for me? And we said, absolutely. So since everything was connected and we didn't have to pull any cables, it was just a matter of, getting the right Lightedge operations people to like look at the order and get their deployment done. We had that connection up in less than 24 hours. And I was just personally, and we managed all the BGP to the provider, and we just gave, all the customer had to do was just basically static route right into the Lightedge network. And it was something that I personally was kind of proud that we were able to do that so quickly for a customer. Because of our networking capabilities. So for customers that are, looking for a hybrid cloud architecture, having that ability to connect anywhere, anytime, and do it quickly and have it offered to you as a managed service, I think is a huge value add that our customers enjoy with us.
That's very well said, Brad. There's nothing that makes me proud of our team and our solutions than making the really, really complex things seem and feel very, very easy. So great example. Mike, question for you. As we've gone through this transition, as VMware has gone through this transition, um, we've been surprised a little bit. There's been some things that have taken us off guard. We've learned some things, right? We've any change, comes with, observations and observations. What have we seen? What have we personally seen as learnings or lessons through this change?
Well, I think the big thing that we've learned and that we're frankly excited about is, maybe a change in the level of engagement from Broadcom. Historically, I talked about, we were engaged with VMware as a partner for many years. Great team, great technology, very difficult to get their attention over the years, right? You had thousands of partners, if not tens of thousands at the peak that were all kind of vying for attention. And frankly, it was almost impossible to get that attention. I think one of the more positive changes, Travis, or unexpected changes, if you will, has been as Broadcom has kind of come out and whittled down that list of partners that they want to work with. behind the scenes, they've increased the level of strategic dialogue, if you will, with those remaining partners, right? And when I talk about that, it's not just at a technology level, it's at an executive level. So, we're meeting regularly with them up and down within our organization. Some of the team members on the call here today, many of our engineering and operations resources behind the scenes are working daily with their counterparts now at VMware. I think that's been a very positive change, and it reinforces that, Broadcom's intention is not to come in here and just, live on the money and forget about this, right? They're paying attention to the partners that are left. They're very interested in enabling us and making sure we're successful. We're taking the right steps. Back to your earlier question about what are we doing to make sure there's not disruptions. Seventh generation sitting in each one of our data centers. We continue to refresh those platforms, if you will, that infrastructure investment, which is a large investment in those data centers, and keep up to date with these changes so that our customers can continue to rely on VMware as a partner.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, reminder that the QA is live, everybody. So if you have any questions, use the function. Don't have a question, but I'm not going to miss the opportunity to give a shout out to Jamie. So Jamie's a current customer, and Jamie says not a question, but I agree. We use Lightedge as the glue to connect our different cloud environments. Thank you for that, Jamie. I will shout that to the rooftops as long as you let me. Good deal. And so, we are winding down, but we still got some time. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. But I do want to kind of start summarizing what we've heard, what we've learned, right? The bottom line is that VMware remains that powerful, trusted platform that we all know and love. It's simply evolving under a new model, and they are reinforcing, they're doubling down that they want their providers to deliver quality, security, and consistency at no compromise. And you only get that through focus. And so we know that many providers are being impacted by this shift. This means that it's critical for customers, the ecosystem, to confirm that they are aligned with an authorized VMware partner. This is your crown jewels, right? Make sure that it's with that trusted partner. Lightedge is proud to be one of those top global partners. That's the 17th time we've told you that. I'll tell you probably three more times in the remaining minutes. But we are here to help you simplify that complex, potentially overwhelming, confusing journey to right-size your environment, rationalize your environment, modernize your environment, and really make sure that in that world of evolving change, you are prepared for what's next. We could focus on the hard stuff for you, and you could focus on what you're good at, and that's running your business. Um, I'm gonna do one more round of questions, and so I'm gonna ask all three of you the same question. What is one thing a customer should be doing now to full future-proof their VMware environments? You have one bullet to give a customer or someone in the VMware ecosystem. What should they be doing right now that they may not be doing? Mike?
Yeah, I think talking to the right partner, right? And I think maybe to expand, Travis, on your earlier point, it's important to point out that we're very happy to work with other service providers. As Brad kind of rattled off all the things that we don't do everything. There are partners out there that you as customers trust today. There may be partners on the phone today that are affected by VMware. We have service providers that rely on us for infrastructure and licensing and continue to kind of differentiate with the services that are strategic to them, right? Medical device management, things like that, right? So I think choose the right partner. Um, make sure you're thinking about these things, considering, the impact of change. Today it's Broadcom, tomorrow it's going to be somebody else. Can the partner you choose to work with flex, and can that partner work with other partners? Because no one partner is going to do everything for everybody, right? So are you choosing somebody that's partner friendly, that's able to get in there and work together to solve the problems that you have? That's the most important thing to look at.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I'm gonna answer Todd's question in the QA. So Todd mentions that he's a VMware customer. He's migrating currently. Um, he sees some opportunity, we'll say, in how he could be supported. And he's more interested to learn more about the Lightedge support options. His question specifically at the end, though, is does Lightedge provide US-based support? I'll say 99.9% of our team is US based. And so absolutely, it's a largely US population. So happy to support you there, Todd. Robert, what is your recommendation?
Uh, just take a moment. I like take a moment, take stock, baseline all the things. What do you have? How much of it do you have? Again, it's very easy when things change, especially very suddenly, to again just do that quick response. Like I got to make sure the lights got to stay on tomorrow. You absolutely agree. But to Mike's earlier point, again, Broadcom isn't going to suddenly just turn off all of your infrastructure tomorrow. You have a little bit of time, but that doesn't mean that you should be hasty, right? More speed, less haste, take some time. Understand. To Mike's again earlier point, reach out if you need help. We talked about it. Go to the Broadcom partner locator. Talk to Lightedge. Whatever your needs, we'll do our best to help along the way. Again, we have been chosen as a top 100. We're going to hit that 20. But really, again, it's really easy right now to make a kind of quicker rash decision and justifiably, truly none of us would be like, that was a poor no, just take time, slow it down. Don't be concerned necessarily about suddenly everything coming crashing down tomorrow, but definitely have a little bit of urgency, but just plan. It's okay to just plan, and again, don't hesitate to reach out. Like we have, goodness, decades of experience, right? At minimum, we're worth just a chat to try to just figure out maybe where you are and what we can do to help along the way.
Yeah, well said, Robert. Brad?
Well, those are two great answers.
Okay.
Hard to follow
Aren't
up.
you glad I put you last,
Yeah,
Brad?
thanks for that, Travis. I guess I'd take a little bit more of a technical standpoint here, and just real quick, I would like to see VMware customers start to use zero trust architectures a little bit more, and Lightedge with our capabilities around virtual and physical networking. We've helped a lot of customers kind of use things like NSX to provide microsegmentation for the workloads, not only to secure their east-west traffic today, but to prepare them for the future. So when they maybe go to that next platform or into put some workloads in the public cloud, those platforms expect you to have a zero trust as you begin. So you're ready for that as you go. But that's one thing I would like customers to start thinking about is how they can more modernize their networking stack, and Lightedge is here to help them. We've done that many times for customers.
Thank you, Brad.
Mhm.
All right, I think this is the last question we have. We do have one live question. It's from Naveen. Naveen asks, how do you choose the right partner? That's a simple question, but it's also a complex question. Mike, I see you unmuted. Rock and roll.
Yeah, I think one of the things I suggest to our customers to kind of help vet the partners, if you will, that you're talking to is give them hypotheticals on changes in the future and see how they react, right? We all talk about hybrid cloud, but that means different things to different providers. For us, it means entering into long-term relationships with customers and giving them the flexibility to change when their business needs change, right? So even though we may, as example, sign a 3-year agreement for a dedicated private cloud built on VMware, we can and will change that investment, if you will, or allow the customer to flex that spend into other services. That's pretty unique. Even within the hyperscalers, I hear about customers that tell me, hey, I'm willing to commit a lot of money to you, Microsoft, but if I put the money in the AI spend bucket, you won't let me change it to something else when I find out that, my needs have changed, right? So even the hyperscalers have challenges with this. I would say ask the partner how they respond and what kind of flexibility they have for that change. That will give you a good insight into things that likely will happen over the next couple of years and how that partner will be able or equipped to handle that change.
Well said, Mike. I'll add up to my point of view as well. When you're shopping for a provider, right? You're kind of interviewing folks. In my opinion, the worst thing that a provider can do is answer your question. If you ask a question and they answer your question with a very direct answer, that's a signal, in my opinion. Our goal is to give you a journey, right? We want to tell you here's what all the things that you're going to experience for the next 3 years. Here's the plan, here's the pricing, here's the sequencing. Here's the pain. Here's the lessons we've learned. Here's what we're going to prevent. You don't want a provider to answer your question. You want your provider to come opinionated and give you a well-informed journey that makes things go very, very, very smoothly. So it's it's hard to make the hard things. It's hard to make the hard things seem easy, and I think we're getting pretty good at that. So it takes a lot of expertise to do that. And so with that said, I want to reinforce. VMware's future is strong, but the partner ecosystem's absolutely changing. Um, Customers aligned with the VMware partners, with the VMware technology. I think that we're excited to support them for the long term and provide that stability, resilience, and security that we've all come to know and love within the VMware stack. For those joining us today, thank you for making it. Thank you for spending your time with us. For the panelists, Rob, Mike, Brad, really, really, really appreciate your time, guys. Thanks for sharing your expertise. And if you're here and we've got your attention, you may as well make your way to lightedge.com/VMware. Help us help understand a little bit more about what VMware means at Lightedge, how we could potentially help you, how we can make the hard things seem easy, and we'd love to go on that journey with you. With that, we'll go ahead and call it a wrap, and hope everybody has a good rest of your day. Thank you all.
Take care, everybody.